One thing I want to do before we enter the Splatoon 4 news cycle is make some predictions. This video is going to be heavily inspired by this one about Smash 6. I'll link it in the description. How this is going to work is I'm going to make a Splatoon 4 bingo sheet that we'll be able to keep around and fill out as information is revealed, with my 25 predictions, being 10 for the multiplayer, 5 for single player, 5 for the side modes, and 5 for Salmon Run. So today, I'm going to be going over all my predictions and what I'm expecting. Anyway, be sure to subscribe to make sure you can see that in the future. By the way, before I get started, and I'll keep this brief, if you're looking at competitive Splatoon, you might want to keep up with the Splat World Series, where 8 of our best Western teams go against 8 of the best in Japan. So far, a few teams have qualified, and if you want to see both who will join them and the event stream when it takes place on what is our most stacked event in Splatoon 3's history, then take a look at IPL Splatoon. Anyway, let's get back to the bingo. Let's start with a simple one. Stages will be able to return more than twice. What this means is that Splatoon 3 didn't bring back any stages that were already brought to Splatoon 2. I figured that makes sense with the games being on the same system and having a lot of stages that were possible to bring back. However, now that Splatoon 4 is going to be on the Nintendo Switch 2, I think that it's more than likely that we'll be able to get stages back that we've already gotten before. In the good timeline, this could mean we get stages like Pit and Anchovy, and in the bad timeline, it means we get like Port and Walleye. Next up, Salmon Run. I think that there are a lot of people expecting Little Judd to be a big part of Splatoon 4's story mode, since they were hinted to take over Grizzco at the end of that game. However, I think for the majority of the player base, the Little Judd storyline from the past 2 games hasn't gotten as much of a spotlight, and instead, I think Salmon Run will make a focus of highlighting that, since a lot of players will be curious how Salmon Run is operating without Mr. Grizz. This would be a great time to place the hints and set up his plot for a later story mode. Next up, side modes. I'm predicting that challenges are going to become a staple feature, maybe even being more common. But the main thing for this prediction is that they will be a feature from day one. Challenges are way too good an idea to pass up, and I think they should be something available right away as a really important and frequent casual mode. For single player, I want to talk about some characters that I think should come back. A lot of them have gotten enough development where they should be put to the side, but I think one group that a lot of people are hoping for is Deep Cut. So originally, this is where the prediction for Deep Cut being more important to the story happened, because they didn't get much development in Splatoon 3, and then Raiders got announced. So scratch that prediction. Instead, I'm gonna say that I'd like the single player to have a co-op option. Think similar to Mario Galaxy 2 or Mario Odyssey, having the ability to play it with somebody else if someone is with you. There's even a pretty obvious candidate as to what character you could use to be the co-op. It's Little Buddy. They should bring Little Buddy back, because I felt like they didn't really do a whole lot with them, and I'd like to see them again. I just think it'd be a cool option to have some kind of local co-op for Splatoon 4. I just think it'd be a neat extra option that would be very appreciated. Cycling back to multiplayer, the map design. I am really hoping that this gets entirely overhauled. Considering Splatoon 2 had some smaller complaints about it, and it exploded in Splatoon 3 to a debate that the devs themselves are aware of at this point, I'm willing to bet that the map design might actually change to the old beta designs that Splatoon 3 originally had. This would be a huge development, and I think a lot of people are really looking forward to this. Something people think might be overhauled that I think isn't going to happen is main weapons. I see a lot of predictions that there might be major cuts to the weapon roster, but personally, I don't see it. I think most, if not all, weapons are going to return in Splatoon 4, without too many significant changes either. While there is a large weapon roster, I don't think there is a large enough amount to where cuts are really that necessary. So I think for the most part, that won't change. Next up, back to Salmon Run, is a new mode / endless mode. Salmon Run in Splatoon 3 had some scrapped modes that we know were in development at some point, and considering Salmon Run has only had one main mode for 2 games in a row now, I think it's about time that they get something new. So I'm willing to bet that we're going to get some kind of different mode. Ideally, I'd really like to see an endless mode, so bonus points if that's what it is. And pairing with this new mode prediction, I'm going to talk about rotations briefly. Now, I think rotations in general are going to stay, but I think they're especially going to stay for Salmon Run. Though I do think with the exception of Big Run, they'll be available at any point. So both this new mode and the original Salmon Run mode will both be available, but it will still be random what kind of weapons you have access to, since that seems so integral to the current system. Now, I didn't really have a category to put this in, but there has to be something for the free space, which lines up with side modes. So in this category, I'm going to put mouse control and 120 frames per second Splatoon. I feel like these are pretty much a given and I expect to see them, so they're gonna go under this category. Alright, let's get to some larger points. The story mode for Splatoon 4 will be where I think most of Team Pass Victory will be used there. Splatoon is a lot about a living and breathing world that ages with our own, so I don't think it's gonna be a prequel or anything. Instead, I think they're gonna take the opportunity to use the story mode to tell a bit about the past. A lot of previous story games, though, have been about moving on from it, so I think there should be some different added conflict this time. And because of that, I'm gonna jump into another character that I feel would be really perfect to explore this. My next single player prediction is that Agent 4 will return as an antagonist. Agent 4 has been a largely forgotten character that hasn't gotten a lot of development, and I want to be clear here, I'm not saying that Agent 4 will be the villain of the story. Instead, I think that they should be a representation of something done poorly in the past, and be an interesting way to play with the themes of the game. I also think that going against a former agent is really cool, and while we saw that a little bit with Inner Agent 3, I think it'd be a lot more interesting to actually see Agent 4 have some points that the player would have to consider for a more fleshed out story mode, and having a character from the past that was largely abandoned would be an interesting way to develop that story. Anyway, to tie back to the multiplayer, I think that the kit system is going to be overhauled. Like with the map design, this was something that got a lot of critiques in Splatoon 3, and people have had problems with it for multiple games. If Splatoon 4 is willing to be a larger change to the series, I feel like that this is one thing that could be looked at. I'm not sure exactly what would happen, but I do think it won't be the same system as we have right now. Another new thing that I think we will get will be some kind of base mode, ranked or unranked, but something that will be available all the time. While Splatoon 3 did add a lot new, the absence of a new ranked mode was something that I felt was a bit of a bummer. And personally, I just don't see them doing that 2 times in a row. Maybe we'll see something like the scrapped 8-ball or rocket modes, or something entirely new. Next up for Salmon Run, I'm gonna make a prediction that we'll see some Salmon Run exclusive specials. I think it'd be interesting to design special weapons around Salmon Run specifically, and it could be a cool way to keep specials in the game that aren't the best for multiplayer. To give a specific prediction for bonus points, I'm gonna go with Kraken as that special. An invincibility special doesn't really fare too well for the base game. However, I think Kraken feels amazing and has a much more interesting dynamic in Salmon Run, so that'd be a cool way to keep such an iconic special. A similar prediction for Salmon Run while I'm at it is sub-weapons. I think that we're going to be able to use more sub-weapons in Salmon. It's kind of crazy to me that we've literally only had access to Splat Bomb so far, and honestly, I feel like that's one area that can't stay the same. Next up, 2 predictions in one, and they're both about Splatfest. First off, I think that both Fizz Bangs and a multi-team mode like Tricolor or a rework of it will be gone in Splatoon 4. While both of these features had their positives, I feel like neither of them are as necessary to the next game, nor do I see the Switch 2 having an easy way of handling a 4-team mode to match Splatoon 4. So I think we're gonna get something different, which shifts into a more general overhaul of Splatfest. I think that the formula for Splatfest is actually going to change a bit. I could see it being reworked a little bit to where you still pick the 2 teams, but maybe there's more things to do, such as ranked modes in Fest or something akin to shifty stations. Jumping back to the single player, I think there will be a new level format that strays away from the current hero mode or Octo expansion level design. This could be something similar to what Side Order did, since I think the roguelite element is fairly new, but it could also be something entirely different. For example, they could always do more with the open world area. Alternative's hub world was much more fleshed out than the previous games, and an open world for Splatoon is something that I think could actually be quite interesting. Either way, I think it means that the design of the stages themselves and the overworld surrounding them are going to feel different. Jumping to the multiplayer, I'm willing to predict we're going to get some kind of new movement mechanic. Squidroll and Surge were good additions, but I think we're going to see more of them. Mainly since I don't think there's a lot of places to add to the main weapons themselves, and we currently have an A button that isn't used for much besides clam blitz throws, something the L button already does. So personally, I'd really like to see some expanded option, and I think movement is something that'll naturally have to be expanded on with time. Another multiplayer prediction I have is all new special weapons. Specifically, I don't think they're gonna do that. While they did experiment with that in Splatoon 2, I think it's safe to say that it did not end up well. Sure, maybe they could do better, but there's so many cool and interesting special designs in this game that I think it would be kind of a shame to not bring any of them back, especially for the rare option that wasn't in Splatoon 3, Bubble Blower, which I'd really like to see given another shot. If I had to predict one special to return though, and frankly be a special of the series, I'm going to predict Zipcaster. In fact, I think the special will be even more common. It was used really well in single player, is very fun in multiplayer, and it was even scrapped as a potential special to be added to Salmon Run, something they might actually go through with for Splatoon 4. I really think Zipcaster has a solid chance of coming back. Let's get our last single player prediction out of the way, or somewhat a single player edition. You know mechanics like ride rails or boost pads, single player mechanics? I think those are going to appear more in multiplayer stages. Whether that be exclusively in more challenges or in the base stages themselves, I think that we're going to see more mechanics from single player translated to other parts of the game like Salmon Run and multiplayer, and we'll see them more frequently. On to the last prediction for side modes is table turf and lockers. And to be honest, my prediction is that they're not going to come back. As much as I personally do enjoy these modes from time to time, lockers feels like a temporary replacement for what should be apartments given the amount of fans who want to see that kind of thing. And table turf I think just unfortunately didn't really have enough success to be brought back, especially given the lack of consistent online support for matchmaking against people besides friends. Second last to the multiplayer system is abilities. I think we're going to see a lot of changes to the ability system. From Splatoon 1 to 2, plenty were removed and added, while Splatoon 3 didn't do as much. In this case, I think it's going to be back to how Splatoon 2 was. I could see abilities like Respawn Punisher being removed, while other new abilities are being added. My personal hopes would be more trade-off abilities like Ninja Squid, as I think those add a lot of interesting dynamics to the game. Maybe I'll talk about them in another video. And that brings me to my final prediction. I have saved my boldest one for last. I am predicting the return of main power-up. Now, look, this could absolutely go horrible. I mean, MPU created a lot of problems, but if we stray away from the damage up and we're a little bit more careful this time around, I think MPU could be a good thing. And the idea of using an ability to help add to main weapons attributes is still really interesting. To me, this idea just has too much to it for it to be something that we'd never see after Splatoon 2. So I think it's gonna come back. Just please don't do damage up again, all right? Thanks. And with that being said, that's my predictions. What do you think is going to come back in Splatoon 4? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and I will see you all next time.